Hey everyone, hello. So today, we're diving into one of the most misunderstood, debated, and mythologized organizations in the modern world, Freemasonry. What is it really? Is it a secret society running the world? A mystical brotherhood guarding ancient knowledge, or simply a fraternity focused on moral development and charity? And perhaps most overlooked, what about women in Freemasonry? Can women become Freemasons? If so, how? And why aren't they part of the mainstream lodges? Let's unpack history, symbolism, structure, secrecy, and the parallel world of women Freemasons. Freemasonry is one of the world's oldest fraternal organizations. In modern form, officially, it dates back to 1717 in London, from the formation of the First Grand Lodge. However, its symbolic roots trace much further back. To medieval stonemason guilds and possibly even earlier philosophical traditions. At its core, Freemasonry is a moral and ethical system taught through allegory and symbolism, structured through degrees of initiation, focused on self-empowerment, brotherhood, and charity. Freemasonry is not a religion, but it requires belief in a supreme being. The supreme being is referenced to symbolically as the great architect of the universe, allowing men of various faiths to participate without promoting one religion over another. Freemasonry operates through local lodges governed by a Grand Lodge in each jurisdiction. The core structure includes 3 degrees: entered apprentice, fellowcraft, and master mason. These degrees symbolize stages of personal development: ignorance to knowledge, youth to maturity, rough stone to polished stone. Beyond the 3 foundational degrees, there are additional bodies like the Scottish Rite, the York Rite, and the Shriners. Each adds philosophical teachings, but does not override the importance of becoming a Master Mason. The symbols most recognized include the square and compass, the all-seeing eye, the letter G, and the pillars of Solomon's temple. These are symbolic tools representing morality, divine order, and spiritual architecture. Freemasonry is often labeled secret, but Masons describe it as a society with secrets, not a secret society. The private elements primarily involve rituals of initiation, signs and grips, and internal ceremonies. The purpose of secrecy is not necessarily concealment of power, but preservation of symbolism and personal transformation. Ritual has psychological weight, and secrecy reinforces seriousness. However, historically, secrecy has also fueled suspicion and conspiracy theories, of course, from claims of global control to occult manipulation. But documented evidence shows Freemasonry primarily functioning as a fraternity, a charitable network, and a moral development system. So now we move on to the often misunderstood area. Traditional Grand Lodges, such as the United Grand Lodge of England. Most U.S. Grand Lodges, including California, are male-only organizations. However, this does not mean women cannot practice Freemasonry. Women absolutely can and do. Women's Freemasonry has existed for over a century in organized form. The two major female-only Grand Lodges are the Honorable Fraternity of Ancient Freemasons, founded in 1913, and the Order of Women Freemasons, established in 1908. These organizations operate independently from male Grand Lodges, but they follow the same 3-degree structures, use the same rituals, symbolism, and regalia, emphasize self-improvement and charity. Their ceremonies mirror traditional Freemasonry, almost identical in structure and symbolism. Important to note on legitimacy: mainstream male Grand Lodges do not recognize women lodges in the formal Masonic sense. However, organizations like the United Grand Lodge of England have acknowledged that women Freemasonry is legitimate in its historical roots and structure, even though members do not formally visit one another's lodges. This creates what's called a mutual respect non-visiting relationship. In addition to female-only lodges, there are also mixed-gender lodges, such as the International Order of Freemasonry for Men and Women, which was founded in France in 1893, allowing both men and women to participate equally in initiation and advancement. This branch is more common in Europe, but has lodges worldwide. The male-only tradition largely comes from historical precedent. Operative stonemason guilds were exclusively male due to labor structures in medieval Europe. When Freemasonry transitioned from operative stoneworkers to speculative philosophical, the male structure remained. Supporters of gender separation argue it preserves tradition and the unique fraternal bond. Supporters of women's and co-masonry argue that the moral and spiritual teachings are universal. Enlightenment principles include equality. Symbolism applies to all humanity. Women in Masonic lodges take obligations, progress through degrees, and participate in symbolic death and rebirth ceremonies, as well as wear regalia such as aprons and collars, and engage in charitable work. The psychological framework remains the same: transformation through symbolism. The initiate begins as a rough ashlar, imperfect stone, and works toward becoming a perfect ashlar. This metaphor transcends gender. Freemasonry's secrecy, symbolism, and historical influence includes members who were presidents, founding fathers, military leaders, and philosophers, and have contributed to ongoing speculation. But documented records show most lodges focus heavily on charity, community involvement, ethical development, and networking and fellowship. Women's lodges similarly engage in charitable projects and community service. For those in the occult and spiritual community, Freemasonry is often viewed as an initiatory mystery system. Some see it as a continuation of ancient mystery schools, a symbolic path of ego death and rebirth, a psychological initiation into higher consciousness. Others see it purely as a moral fraternity, a symbolic teaching system, and a civic organization. The truth likely lies somewhere between historical tradition and psychological symbolism. Freemasonry is not a monolith. It includes male-only traditional lodges, female-only grand lodges, and co-ed international lodges. Women absolutely practice Freemasonry, just within independent jurisdictions. While mainstream male grand lodges do not formally recognize them, there is increasing acknowledgement of shared history and structure. At its core, Freemasonry, regardless of gender, teaches moral responsibility, self-mastery, brotherhood or sisterhood, charity, and symbolic transformation. The craft is about building a temple, not of stone, but of character. So yeah, that's it for today's video. As always, I hope you found it entertaining, enlightening, or in some way beneficial. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with a friend or two. Alright everyone, take care. Peace.